Hello everybody, this is the EpicGamingGuru and I'm going to be showing you a rather fantastic game made about 5 years ago, and I'm pretty sure you all can guess by the title of what we're going to go through. It is going to be Let It Die. Despite the fact that it has a really awesome intro, the thing about Let It Die is that unfortunately they're actually on their final season, although that's what it mainly says on the console variation. If you go directly into their websites, there seems to be projects heading into a possible, maybe season 13. Not going to lie, I technically wouldn't mind if Let It Die actually continued on even all the way beyond Season 12. This game is by far one of the most best free-to-play hack and slash dungeon crawlers I've ever seen. There is a lot of annoyances here and there where there is a huge grind, but with most free-to-play games that's kind of to be expected. As for the dungeon crawling portion of the game, I'm actually a little bit surprised that it's actually very addictive and surprisingly incredibly fun, even though considering that there are so many things you have to go through in this game and try to actually get as materials, upgrades through so many floors. At first it seems like there's only 35 floors to beat the main part of the game. However, through a quick amount of research, you'll start to realize the grind really starts to get heavy when you start to realize there's over 300 floors in the game. And I'm barely through even like 1/3 of that. Now we can actually start talking about more or less the actual grind variation part of the game, which in any case that you're playing, you can either be a very high ranked or low ranked character. Either way, you are starting in the same floor and working your way back up again, unless you want to pay some extra gold coins, or in this case kill coins, to be able to grind yourself back up to the main lobby you want to be in. Another thing that's incredibly sometimes frustrating is that when you go up into a higher floor and then you have to pay yourself back down again, you'll be wasting about nearly 4,000 kill points at least to be able to grind up to certain materials you needed. Not to say that it's actually kind of a bad thing. I mean, let's be 100% honest. Each floor here gives you at least about 5,000 kill coins plus, and then that doesn't even include the extra kill coins you could possibly get from actually increasing your luck stat. Luck stat here not only increases your critical damage, but it also increases the amount of kill coins you receive regardless of what character you're using, so there is at least a huge plus side to that. Well, for the most part. The lock-on system and the actual combat itself is actually very reminiscent of Dark Souls and Bloodborne. However, what I find even more interesting is how this game manages to pull it off. There's actually a lot of different weapons, different abilities, and even different perks in the game that help you out. And they even have a counter system. Even I have to admit, drop kicking into an enemy and just watching them explode into a bloody mess is just so satisfying. However, sometimes with a risky move like that, you end up crouching instead, giving a free hit to the enemy, unfortunately. One little nice tip and trick they actually decided to help players in when it comes to the game is actually understanding how the map system perfectly works. It's a very simple system, but it works just fine. Color coding the escalators in order to show you exactly where you have to go is a very nice feature. One color code is blue and the other one is orange. Most of the time you'll end up needing to cook actual items along the way. This usually involves either any animals you find, which are usually frogs and rats at the beginning, and then they start getting bigger and upgraded to scorpions and a bunch of other stuff that you gotta start charring through a bunch of fire. There's even some shaded out floors that actually contain some very valuable items that you're going to need in order to find even more upgrades for certain gear. Sometimes these locations even contain a shop or even a hidden boss that can help you later on in the game. The bosses themselves look kind of crazy. Don't worry, this is a low level Cohen. Bosses actually do increment higher and higher in damage and in health the higher floors you end up going, so if you're not careful or prepared enough, you could die easily. I also forgot to generally talk about the environments when it comes to the actual game itself. A lot of the environments technically change every time you go higher and higher into the levels. It actually starts to look less like a sewer and more like an actual slaughterhouse in some locations. Some actually look like decrepit cities, and some even look like just flat out futuristic born type of towns. It's a pretty crazy world in general when it comes to Let It Die, and that I appreciate for it even more. Now, unfortunately, as good as the game seems to be, there is actually a way to possibly make the game pay to win if you choose to do so. The game features a currency called Rainbow Skulls that you will technically try to use in order to be able to expand your storage, convert with death metals, or even resurrect your character entirely if your character were to die on the floor, which is something you should never do because you could always just end up getting your character back by using the in-game currencies such as the death coins instead. The level up system is actually very simplistic for what it is, but to be 100% honest, it works well with this game. All you have to do is basically get enough XP, level up certain stats, and then you're ready to go with your character again. However, it's mainly best to just max out a character with all of their stats and then try to go back right into the tower and hope you can survive against whatever comes your way. Now I gotta talk about the mushroom lady who looks like a referee got freaky with a giant mushroom in a washroom. She's the only one in the game that actually gives you perks such as decals in order to put around your character to make sure your statuses are increased depending on what you want. There's literally thousands of different types of builds you can actually make on your character based on what weaponry or armor you're using, or even just based on raw survival stats. The other thing I don't like about this game though is the fact that it's really based on the RNG when it comes to her. You have to spend around 50,000 kill coins to be able to get a huge arsenal of different decals, and you have to hope that you get the right decals you need for your character. The higher level start the decal is, the better the decal turns out to be. Now there is a way to actually buy them off with Rainbow Skulls, however this is very unrecommended simply because of the fact that you can only get a certain amount of them, and usually they're not really that well put off for Rainbow Skulls. You're better off just saving up some actual kill coins and then just using that to be able to purchase your necessary decals you'll need in order to survive.
My success, the secret of my success, the secret of my success.
Welcome.
The actual shopkeeper for both armor and weapons seems to be the most complicated thing of all in the game. There are so many armors and so many weapons with each of their own individual statuses. This is where I felt like the game developers actually spent most of their time on. However, the main thing that I find kind of annoying about this is that it does require so many separate items, so many separate parts. You will be in the tower for hours upon hours upon hours on end just trying to get certain parts you need just to fully upgrade one armor set. And that could take you in the span of more than weeks to months in this game, even way after you've actually fully beaten it. If you thought that actually getting the parts necessary to upgrade weapons and armor was actually the long version of the game, or even anything long within the game, getting the actual coins you require to actually even be able to purchase any of this equipment is also a very long grind. However, it does feel good to know that a lot of these weapons do last quite a bit in the tower, so your purchase isn't going to outweigh your profit. The only time I've ever seen where your purchase would outweigh your profit is if you actually have a very low tier armor while going into higher levels into the tower. So take what you actually do need for what you're trying to do, and not take something you don't need and later regret your purchase.
Come back anytime.
There is actually another interesting extra feature they decided to add into the game, and this was even before I started coming back and playing it again. The recycle machine actually allows you to earn certain recycle points for recycling both decals and blueprints. However, the machine is mainly justifiably used to be able to recycle decals instead because they give you the most points, and if you have copies of decals, even better, just throw them into the machine and hope you get better items. Especially if today's lineup works with you or not. So overall, technically Let It Die is not actually that much of a bad game as people make it sound to be. Yes, there is a huge grind list of items that you need to go through and collect a bunch of materials and items throughout the entire tower, but that's kind of to be expected with a lot of free-to-play games, especially nowadays. Overall, this game is rather well done, the graphics are nice, the characters are rather amusing, and then on top of that, the storyline is actually also not half bad. Overall, it's pretty good. Other than that, I hope you all enjoyed it though. This has been EpicGamingGuru. I will definitely be back on trying to make more videos in the future, and check out any of the other content that I have going around the channel. If you enjoyed the video that much, leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.
Turns out, I don't have any internal organs. Just nasty gunky shit. Anyway, ready to play?